Hi and welcome back to my channel, and if it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Simone. Today I'm going to do a video on hospital births and give some useful tips on how to have a really nice experience and to make the hospital as homely as possible. If you've been on my channel before, you'll know that I've had an emergency C-section after being in a midwife led centre, and I had a home birth with my second baby, and then with this one, because no one could come out for a home birth, I had a water birth in the hospital. So I had a lot of fear going into the hospital after the emergency C-section. I mentally prepared and everything in case I did have to get transferred in after the home birth. When I had Micah, I really mentally prepared myself once again for a hospital birth, and there were some things that I did in preparation that really helped. I hope you can hear me because I'm out at the park and the kids here just here in front of me. So firstly what I did was I went up to the hospital and I had a look round, and when I spoke to the consultant, because obviously I had the emergency C-section, I was under a consultant, talked about any of my fears. I had a birth preferences which I definitely recommend, and talked over that with the consultant. They showed me around the birthing suite, so if there's a midwife led centre that you fancy going in, or in the consultant bit, depending on what country you're in obviously, then you can get them to take you on a tour around to look at the different rooms. You could even ask them if there is a room that you really like, what were the chances of you being able to have that room. So that's what I did with Micah. I saw the room, there was 2 rooms with a pool, and for the water birth, and I asked, obviously if it's not busy, would I be able to get that room. And then they also talked about what we could bring into the room, what we could do with it, having the lights dim and everything else. So I really would recommend that, familiarising yourself with the hospital and the route so that you can be really chilled out when you're on the way to the hospital. Second, which I found really useful for me, especially if you've got other children, or if you've got pets, or loved ones, or even inspirational quotes or anything like that, taking photos with you. So I had a little photo of Neva and Caleb to really help to keep me going when the labour was in the thick of it and I was getting a bit tired. It really just kept me inspired and kept that oxytocin, the chemical, the love hormone going. So I had a picture which I would move around the room with me depending on where I was, and when I was giving birth in the pool, I had it on the side. So you could have pictures of your kids, or like I said, inspirational quotes, or nice scenic view, or anything really, anything that you can stare at when you're in the thick of it and maybe you're feeling a bit discouraged. It's just nice to have that. Another thing as well is maybe to take like a blanket, or like pillows. I don't know whether you'd be able to take a duvet, or whether you'd want to anyway, because they are quite warm, aren't they, hospital wards. But I took my daughter's blanket. I took something of my son and my daughter's, so I could smell my daughter, and I think it was my son's pillow that I had. So I had them for comfort as well, and that really helped me, especially if I was having any doubts or getting worried.
Say your sons, not your daughter's sons.
My daughter.
Your daughter and your son.
Yeah, sorry, my daughter and my son. So yeah, so that really helped as well, having some home comforts. I also brought like the kind of like fairy lights. I had some of them as well, but I didn't end up taking them with me, but they did have some in the hospital. So they were like little tea tree lights, because they won't let you take like real candles on the ward. So I had them lights, and it was so nice because the room was really dimmed and I could just have them lights there, and when it was time to give birth, The midwife, thankfully, she didn't turn the lights up. She just had like a torch so she could see the baby's head. I'll put a clip of that in here anyway if you've not seen my birth video, so you can see how I had all the rooms set up and how tranquil and calm it was.
Here's a birthing stool, which is really nice.
And then lights.
Very useful. There's lights, bath, very useful bath. Breathe. That was really good. That was absolutely amazing. There you go. There you go.
Oh! So he's got to dry. Look at him! Look at him! Look at him!
Hey. Hello.
Another thing as well which I find really useful is if you've done hypnobirthing. I have a video on some useful books for hypnobirthing and for I wouldn't say, well, you could say pain-free birth. With my second birth I wouldn't say it was particularly painful, it was uncomfortable, but these books can really help you to get in a really good mindset and help you to be very, very chilled out. But the hypnobirthing CDs, if you don't know about them, you know, there's like different things that they'll say about, you know, visualising a baby coming down the birth canal, visualise seeing your baby, and usually there's a nice chilled out music in the background. Well, the ward that you might be on, they might have some of these CDs like they did when I had Micah, which was brilliant because I forgot mine, but I did have my phone with me. But to have that on in the background is just really nice. And also, if there's any other women on the ward and they're screaming or whatever, it can just help to zone that out, because that's one thing that I read in a book called Childbirth Without Fear, was if a woman is feeling quite anxious and has anxiety, hearing other women screaming, it can really put you off. And another thing, if you think about birth as well, it's like love making. You don't want to be interrupted every 5 minutes, you don't want loud noises, you want it to be really nice and relaxed. So if you have that on and you have your, you know, your pillow, your blankets, you have your photos, you have your tea tree lights, and if in the birth preferences as well, unless there's like a medical emergency, you can ask, can you and your birth partner be left alone to, you know, to a certain extent. Obviously they're going to have to come in every now and again and check for observations, but with some medical staff they might want to be in the room the whole time, and unless there's a legitimate reason, you know, then really they can go out, come back in, you know, so when they're doing the paperwork they can come out of the room and then come back in. So that's what they did with us. Another thing as well is to take anything that you feel like will be useful for you. So like a TENS machine, that's really, really good to help, especially if you are like me, wanting to have a drug-free birth, that because I didn't want to have any drugs. With my first birth I had gas in it and it really, really messed me up. I just felt totally out of it. Another thing that I really, really think is super important is to have really, really comfortable slippers, preferably with socks as well. The room can be warm and you can feel quite hot, but then other times it can feel quite cold. Obviously it depends, you know, you've got all the different hormones racing through you. But if you are looking to have a labour where you are wanting to walk around a lot and not be confined to the bed, because obviously walking, it can really help to bring the baby down, you're on your feet a lot, so the floors obviously they can be quite cold and hard. So if you've got really soft, comfortable slippers, and like me personally, socks, it really seems to help regulate my temperature when I have them on. So if you're walking around a lot, it will just make you feel really comfortable. And if you're anything like me and you've been walking around for pretty much, I think it was 17 hours this labour, I was walking around pretty much the whole time and then hanging on to like the rope which they had up in the room for us. So my feet by the end were really sore, but I think if I never had the slippers, it definitely would have been a lot more difficult. So yeah, that's another tip, to have slippers. Another thing that I would say as well is to make sure that you've got all your favourite drinks in there. Obviously, depending on where you are, they might give you, you know, offer your team coffee, and the ice water definitely would recommend that. It really helps when you know, you're in the thick of the labour. But yeah, having all your favourite drinks, and also having lots of nice snacks like nuts or like fruit bars. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't have like loads of junk food, because you need so much energy to get you through the labour. So I was having loads of, like I said, nuts, bars, drinking lots of water, and then I was getting my husband to go to the canteen. He was going to the staff canteen. You weren't really supposed to, but they didn't mind. So he was getting me really nice like food just to keep me going, because I can't stress enough how much eating food in labour is so important. With Caleb, they kept saying, "Oh no, don't eat," and I was really hungry, and no wonder I didn't have that much energy to be able to push him out. But with my home birth and with this birth, I was eating on a regular basis, and it really did help to keep me ticking over. Are you saying hiya? Hey? Another thing that really helped me as well is to think of it, it's an occasion. For me, giving birth is like when I got married. I like to prepare for it, I like to be organised as much as possible, and I like to wear something nice. So I had a skirt on and like a vest top with like a black kind of like, not a swimsuit bra, but like one which would be useful for like when I was in the pool, which you'll see on the video. And I had like a dressing gown as well, and I'd done my hair and everything, and I did have a little bit of makeup on, but not loads. But yeah, I wanted to just feel nice and look nice. You know, in the hospital a lot of the time, you know, you can have one of those hospital gown things and feel like you're a patient, feel like you're sick, but you know, you're giving birth. And for me personally, I just felt really nice just getting to the hospital, getting dressed in my birth outfit, and then getting on with the work, you know, to get the baby out. Even in the daytime, I find it really useful if you have the blinds down to keep it really nice and calm, especially when you are in established labour. If it's early labour, then you know, maybe it'll be fine having the blinds open, but I just find that when the room is just totally dark and I can just relax and chill out, it just really helps, because I've read a lot of books about, again, it comes back to love making. You know, you want the lights down low, you want a nice, really chilled out atmosphere, and it gets all the hormones going. And it's the same with birth as well. So if you aren't constantly being interrupted, you've got the blinds closed, it's nice and dark, and you're not being prodded and messed with all the time, it can make a massive difference as well. Essential oils as well, they obviously are so good, some of them, for bringing on labour, for helping for you, you know, helping you to be calm. Just the smell's really nice. Obviously on hospital wards they can smell a bit, you know, sterile, or I don't know what you could describe the smell of, but if you've got essential oils, you know, that you can have, I had them on a cotton wool that I would sniff, or I would like shove it into my bra strap. So like I had clary sage, and there's lavender and frankincense, myrrh as well, so I took them along with me. And I also had like a labour oil as well, so the smell of that around the air was just really nice and relaxing and calm as well. It kind of felt like, in a sense, you know, like when you go on a spa day, it was kind of that vibe that we had going on. But it was so nice, and like the midwife, when she came in, like she said, wow, it's just so nice and relaxed in here. And thankfully they'd read the birth preferences as well, so they was keeping you know, the monitoring of the baby to a minimum, keeping talking to a minimum, and just, you know, they tried the best to not affect the vibe of the room really, which made a massive difference, because sometimes when some other people came in and they didn't respect our space, it can just take you totally out of your concentration zone, and then it takes you a while to get back into it again. So I hope these tips were useful. In my next one I'm thinking about doing one about how to overcome anxiety and fear if you are worried about having a hospital birth. Say for example if you've had an emergency C-section like me and it was quite traumatic. So yeah, if you'd be interested in me making a video like that, or you have any other suggestions, then please leave me a comment below and I will make one of those videos. So, and if you liked this video, then please click the like button and share and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. You say bye?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.